Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, here as always with Nima Tavali. So it's been another crazy week on the Mercato. Milan have continued their spending spree. They have signed Noah Okafor, this one came completely out of nowhere, but they finally got their striker that they needed so desperately. They're also about to sign Samuel Chukwueze, the explosive winger from Villarreal. So they have now spent all the money that they made for selling Sandro Tonali, and they brought in a host of players with that money. So Milan, very, very busy. Elsewhere, we've got Romelu Lukaku, who has come begging back to Inter. He doesn't seem to have any club to go to, obviously, right now. Inter, there's also a goalkeeper mess at Inter. They go on their pre-season tour without a first-choice goalkeeper or a second-choice goalkeeper. So what is going on there? Min-Jae has now officially left Napoli. How will he be remembered after only one season at Napoli, but what a season it was. Mateo Retegui, Italy's naturalised centre-forward, has joined or will have joined by the time this podcast comes out. Genoa, he's having his medical on Monday. Arthur Melo has joined Fiorentina on loan from Juventus. Can he rebuild his career with the next Xavi? He was called by Xavi himself a few years ago. Can he finally rebuild his career? Paul Pogba at Juventus. Can he rebuild his career? It's a total shambles right now. He's injured. He's probably not going to be fit for the start of the season. He's not going to play in the United States on Juventus' tour. So we will discuss that as well. Then Rasmus Hojlund. Manchester United are set to make an official bid this week for Hojlund. He's already agreed personal terms. How much should Atalanta charge Man United? What is he worth? Lots of other topics which we will aim to get into, but we'll see how we get on. We've got Kylian Mbappe, the domino effect of his transfer away from PSG on Serie A teams, and even Inter being linked to him. Lots to talk about. We've got plenty more as well. We'll see if we can get to all of it. As always, this is our free weekly episode, which we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions sent in from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month, plus VAT. And for all of you listening on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, etc., we'd really appreciate a 5-star rating, and give us a follow, subscribe to us. It really helps us to grow. And I can just say, actually, that last Monday's show was our most listened to podcast ever since we started this 3 years ago. So thanks everyone for your support. So let's get into today's show. Okay, let's start with AC Milan, who have been very, very busy over the last week. They officially signed Noah Okafor from RB Salzburg. I got the team there for a second.
I was going to say, what's going on?
They signed him for between 13 to 15 million, including add-ons. Nima, we know that Milan have been looking for a striker all summer, desperately, because of Olivier Giroud is going to turn 37, and they needed a younger attacker. What do you make of this? Is this the right striker that they brought in?
I mean, that remains to be seen whether or not he's a success or not. I don't want to go into too much into that, but again, it reveals a clear strategy on behalf of Milan. It reveals that they know exactly what they want to do. Whether or not it's successful or not, that remains to be seen. But it is clear that Milan are going after these. They're hoovering up young, talented players of a specific profile. They want to play. I think Milan are becoming the 21st Premier League team. They don't play in the Premier League, of course, but it seems to me the more you look at these signings that they intend to play Premier League style football, a high intensity, high tempo game. with all these signings that they brought in, much more direct. And that's, you got to, they're having a fantastic window. They're very ruthless in how they go about things. Again, 76 words, bye-bye Paolo Maldini, bye-bye Ricky Massara. And then they got to work. The first thing they did was sell Tonali, and they didn't give a damn what anyone said. They didn't give a damn about the criticism from the fans, from the media, from anyone. They just ruthlessly went about their business. They've signed a couple of players who all are, 27, one 27-year-old, one 25-year-old, but most of them younger than that. And they're bringing in a player who has pace, strength, intensity, can score, can create, very versatile, very, very, very dynamic. He can play in all three positions in a 4-3-3. And I think Milan are going to play a little bit like Napoli did last season. What do I mean by that? I mean by the sense that they're not going to be so rigid in their 4-2-3-1. I think they're going to be very, very fluid between their 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3. And Leao and Okafor and Chukwueze, if he arrives, you're going to see a lot of positional shifts, a lot of interpositional changes. It's very clear how Milan are going about it, how they're going to play, and I think it's going to be very interesting to follow. I'm not, it's again 24th of July. It's impossible to say where they are in the Scudetto if they can win it, but I think next season's title race is going to be very, very tight, and I think it's obvious that Milan are in it.
I think with Okafor specifically, I obviously I don't watch him week in, week out. But I've seen him in the Champions League. I've seen him for Switzerland. I remember him causing Italy all kinds of problems in that World Cup qualifier, the 1-1, when Jorginho missed. Well, he missed. He missed penalties. He missed penalties in both of them. But the second one that Italy, when they would have qualified for the World Cup if they'd won at home, and Okafor started. Switzerland had a lot of players out, and he was quite unknown. No one knew much about him going into that game, and he caused Italy all kinds of problems in that game. That's the first time I stood up and took notice of him. And I've seen him in the Champions League. He scored against Milan last season. You can see he has a quality. He has quality. You can see he has pace. He has the physical qualities, the intensity that you talked about there, Nima. He can score and create goals. But he's definitely a very flexible player. He's a very versatile player. And I think that's a positive because he can play in the centre. So he can rotate with Giroud, who obviously isn't going to be able to play every week at his age. But as Milan are going to more of this 4-3-3, he can play on the left. He likes to drift out to the left a lot. But he can also play on the right. He can play in a front two. Not that I think Milan will play in a front two. But he's got those physical qualities that he can stretch the play, he can work the channels. I think there is the ability and potential there. He's young. He's not prolific. You look at his goal record, 43 goals in 177 games. He's never hit double figures in the league. That has to improve if he is going to move on to the level that Milan need from attackers. But you can see the potential. I think in a way it's kind of, there's the risk versus reward on this transfer. I think it's a good one for Milan in the sense that, the price is good, 13 to 15 million, including add-ons. If this goes wrong, they can still sell and not make a loss at all, really. So I think there's not too much risk in this transfer. There's a lot more potential reward than there is risk. The biggest concern I have is, and we're going to talk about injury-prone players, including Pogba later, his injury record. That is a concern. His injury record is not good. He's had 13 different injuries in the last 3 seasons. Lots of muscle and hamstring injuries. That can happen when you're young, obviously, growing pains and all that. So we'll see if Milan can sort that out. But that would be my biggest concern, would be his injury record.
No, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point. But to me, if it's just to pick up on that financial point, it's Milan are having a fantastic summer. The way that they're investing, they're not overpaying for any players. They're even managing to sell, but what's his name? Fude Balotore, who are one of our patrons calls Ballon d'Ore. They're even managing to cash in on him. And they're doing a really good job this summer of being able to sell players, get something for them, and it doesn't drag on. This deal with Okafor they completely kept that under wraps, And by the time it was leaked, it was already done. It was finished. It was done, completely done. So they're really doing something really interesting here. And it's something new that we've never seen in the Serie A.
What about Samuel Chukwueze? Because he's going to join Milan as well. It's a done deal. It's only, he's going to come in, he's going to do his medical in the next day or so, and then that will be done. And we're looking at 20 million plus 8 million in bonuses, 4 million a year. Mateo Gabbia will go on loan to Villarreal as kind of part of the negotiation. Again, kind of fits into what Milan are trying to do. Players with pace, intensity, physicality, versatility. Youngsters. This is somebody that's been labelled by some, probably exaggerated, the Nigerian Arjen Robben. He is certainly an explosive player. I think it's an interesting one. He's 10 goals, 7 assists last season in all competitions. He can score, he can assist. He's inverted with his left foot from the right wing, so he offers something different to Pulisic. But what is interesting is that Milan now have depth, and I think that is something that is the positive out of selling Tonali for all this money, as it's allowed them to get this depth in the squad, and they've now got Pulisic and Chukwueze for one role on the right, and then Pulisic could also play on the left as an alternative to Rafael Leao, and then Noah Okafor can play in the centre, but he can also play on the left and the right, and so there's lots of options there that Milan now have in attack, right?
Well, exactly. It's depth, and it's also, above all, it makes their attack far less. When you had Giroud can only play in one position and in one way. Same with Zlatan. This makes them far less predictable. They have players now, and they're also even. I saw some rumors of them selling. What's his name? Who joined from Liverpool, fifth striker.
Origi, yeah.
Yeah, Origi, yeah. I've
West
seen
Ham.
linked West Ham, which is, again, a free transfer. They sell him for 10, 12 million. That's a huge capital gains. I mean, they're doing all the right moves. They're doing all the right things. And in order to do that, when they get rid of these players and the ones that they keep, it makes them far less predictable. It makes them much more flexible, much more fluid, much more dynamic, modern. Milan is a modern, on paper at least, they look like a very modern side. Of course, it has to translate into the pitch, but I actually think that, Milan is, I like where Milan are. I really do.
Well, everything will be played out on the pitch at the end of the day. A lot of these players that they have signed Milan are discarded players, like Loftus-Cheek, like Pulisic.
Yeah.
They're players that the big clubs haven't wanted to go for.
But you could say the same thing about Paul Pogba. He was discarded at United. Lukaku was discarded at Chelsea. That's Italian football for you, really. Italian football can't compete for the creme de la creme. They have to go for the big money signings that fail in the Premier League, and no other Premier League wants to touch them with 10.4.
That these are not, none of these are guarantees as they are. I know no one is a guarantee ever, but these are not. I was just basically saying that let's be careful not to go overboard, because it's not like they are signing absolute world beaters here. They're signing players. They've created a depth. They brought in young players that could be great. At the end of the day, the proof will be in the pudding, how well they do.
No, of course, like it is with all teams and all players and all signings. But I do see a project here. I see a clear line. I see a clear, coherent strategy. And I think Milan, again, same thing. We saw about the new stadium. He's pedal to the metal there. Now, it's still just talk, but I think we could see something there. And I think the moment that penny drops and the shoe drops and Milan officially abandons San Siro, that's going to be very interesting to see how Inter react to that. But I think Milan are doing. Whether it's a results based industry, and at the end of the day, if you fail, you're slashed and destroyed and said, you're an idiot for getting rid of Maldini and Massara and Tonali. But if you succeed, you'll be declared as a genius. All I'm saying at this point is I see a clear, coherent strategy. I think it's the way that they want, not just on the pitch technically and tactically, but also off the pitch financially, and the kind of players they're going after. And I think it's going to be. I think it gives you, as a Milan fan, if you're a Milan fan, you look at this and you go, there's actually a project here. There's a strategy here. There's something to look to here. something to believe in.
And it's not finished yet either. They still plan to sign a central midfielder. Could be Musa.
Yeah.
They're going to sign a backup left back if Lautaro leaves. So they're not finished yet, and they are spending that money. It's not a case of Juventus or Inter in seasons past where they've sold players, big players, a Tonali-like player, and then that money has just gone to paying off debts. They're reinvesting the money that they've made. So that is a positive. And we saw them play against Real Madrid. Actually, they went 2-0 up. Although many of the players won't even be first choice players necessarily for Milan. But they went 2-0 up. They ended up losing 3-2. But Pulisic was lively, and a fantastic goal by Luca Romero.
It could be an interesting,
like a Messi, Dybala, like left footer from him. So that was good.
Another interesting signing that's gone under the radar. You know, he was at Lazio last season, and
I found that strange because he came to such a big fanfare and then left. Maybe we can ask because we're having a Lazio.
We have a Lazio journalist this week on Wednesday or Thursday. I just need to finalize the last details about that. But we're doing for all our patrons. We do a weekly Mercato deep dive, a club specific one. We've done Inter, Juve, Milan, Napoli, Roma, and now we're doing Lazio this week.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see why Lazio allowed him to go when he was. When he came, it was such a big fanfare. Okay, well, staying sort of in Milan, let's go back to good old Romelu Lukaku, who's in the news every single week on this podcast now.
The man's an idiot.
So after stabbing Inter in the back, he's now come back grovelling on his hands and knees, wanting Inter to take him back. Is that right, Nima?
Here's what I think about all of this. This was a masterclass by Giuntoli, because Giuntoli knew that if Lukaku went to Inter win the Scudetto. It's as simple as that. Lukaku, Lautaro, Thuram, Correa walks the Scudetto by 5 to 10 points. And Giuntoli did not want that at all. So, and he also knows that Romelu Lukaku is the easiest, is probably in all of football the most easily affected and most impressionable person in all of football. I think you could, like I said, if you were to hold a broomstick in front of your face and talk, you could do the Jedi mind trick on him. He's very, very easy to impressionable. So they basically just told him,
they unsettled him, and he's being as stupid and easily impressionable as he is, fell for it. And that soured his relationship with Inter. And I think Inter, again, I've been on this podcast for about a year and saying I don't think Inter should extend Romelu Lukaku's loan because I don't think he's worth the money. I would only take him on another season loan. I wouldn't buy him because I don't think he's worth the money. I think he's peaked. I don't think he'll ever be the player he was under Antonio Conte, which is the only 2 years he's been world class ever in his career. I think physically he's declining. But still, I think Inter need to stop this ridiculous behavior of any time Juventus is mentioned, they destabilize themselves. This overreaction. Again, Romelu Lukaku is a Chelsea player. He's not your player. Marotta spent the last 6 months saying he's going back to Chelsea and then we'll see. Okay? I understand that was a tactic, but that goes both ways. You don't own the rights of the player, and he doesn't owe anything to you. So he can talk to whoever he wants. Instead, this overreaction, yes, he didn't answer his phone for 2-3 days. That's incredibly immature and childish, but you have to be professional about these things. This is a business. There's no honor. There's nothing exists until the contract is signed, and there was no contract signed. So Inter, I think, overreacted. The way that the dressing room has also gotten involved, which I also think is ridiculous. I think the dressing room should never be involved in player signings. I think that's part of the management, that they should protect the dressing room from all of that. But clearly that's now an issue, and they don't want him back. And now he's not going to come back, and Inter have weakened themselves. Congratulations, you played yourself. And Lukaku definitely played himself because Juve aren't going to get him. So you might want to, as some Inter fans on Twitter say, start learning Arabic, Romelu, because that's where you're going. He probably can speak it, to be fair. He speaks about 1 billion languages.
Yeah, because Chelsea definitely don't want him. Inter have decided to close the door on him. Juve weren't, if for Juve it's a win-win situation. They prevented Inter from getting Lukaku, which was the main target, their main goal. and Lukaku allowed them to do it, and Inter allowed them to do it. So, I think it's a ridiculous situation. Inter now going after Balogun, which completely changes how Inter play. And again, once again, it's another Bremer 2.0, only this time even dumber, because Bremer was all Inter's fault. This is kind of Romelu Lukaku and Inter deciding to allow Juventus to completely destabilize their project for no reason whatsoever. And whenever these things happen at Inter, they have repercussions for 5-6 weeks, or for 6-7 months last time with Bremer, really. So again, they've created a mess of their own making for no reason, and they don't know how to handle crises at this club. And this wasn't even a crisis. Juventus wanting to sign Romelu Lukaku but not having the money is completely ridiculous. There's nothing there. And then whenever he answered the phone after 3-4 days, if he didn't have the internet, well, use that as leverage in your favor and say, look, Lukaku, Romelu, we've done all this for you. You go missing. You got to give up some of your money for us to continue this signing. Like, again, be professional. Don't be emotional teenagers. And unfortunately, that's kind of how Inter is run. It's run very emotionally. It's run very unprofessionally.
But it's unlike Marotta. In the past, yeah, absolutely. During the Maratti era, it was, and then during the so-called banter era, yeah, I buy that. But not in the Marotta era. Like, I remember going back with Modji. I remember the time when he made Inter sign Cyril Donnarumma, like shit like that.
Just by leaking it into the newspaper, and Moratti.
Yeah, and like stupid stuff. I mean, like, this emotional stuff, but that's not Marotta though. Marotta isn't like that, so I kind of am surprised. And Marotta does have a price, and he does have a. This is it, and so I'm kind of surprised. But maybe, like you said,
because
maybe the dressing room got involved. Maybe,
and you've got Steven Zhang there, and you've got what's his name there, Piero Ausilio there, who apparently when Lukaku phoned started yelling and shouting for 45 seconds before.
But maybe maybe Inter realised, rightfully so, that Lukaku actually isn't that important. It's not actually that much of a big deal if they don't get Lukaku, because like you've said, admitted yourself, well, he's really not worth that much.
He's not worth that money, but in terms of the kind of player he is and what he can give you in terms of the rotation, that it was quite obvious that was what they were going to do. That what they did from April and onwards was how they were going to play, and they were looking to strengthen the team. Well, Lukaku can do that job for you. He'll win you a Serie A title. He'll score you 10, 15 goals, important goals in the Serie A to win you the Serie A. If you bring in Alvaro Morata, if you bring in Balogun, if you bring in whoever, that changes all of that. None of them play like that. And that again makes you look just silly and stupid. Unless you really believe that Marcus Thuram can hit the ground running and be that guy, which I absolutely think he can. I just think it's an unnecessary risk, because that together with selling Onana and having Di Gennaro, who played in the Serie C, and no other goalkeeper, you're not going to.
So what is going on with Inter goalkeepers? Why are we got into this ridiculous situation where Inter are going on a pre-season tour with no goalkeeper?
Because Inter are Inter. Because Inter are not an organised and professional club.
Why have they not signed Sommer or Trubin? Why have none of these deals?
Because Jan Sommer is different. It's got nothing to do with it. I don't like when people talk about, I don't like when people are dishonest. It's not about €1.5 million that Inter doesn't want to spend. It's about Bayern Munich not wanting to be Inter and not have a goalkeeper, because Neuer's physical status is up in the air, and they need to find a replacement first, because they, unlike Inter, are a professional organization and run like a well-oiled machine. So they're not going to get rid of Jan Sommer until they have a replacement. That's why that deal is not being done. It's got nothing to do with $1.5 million and penny pinching. That's just childish shit that some people.
Marotta's been there before, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's
Marco Verratti says hello.
Yeah, Marco Verratti was not an essential part of Juve that summer. Jan Sommer is going to be a starter. It's a completely different situation. This has got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with the fact that Bayern Munich don't want to put themselves in that position that Inter are in, because Bayern Munich understand that every negotiation is about leverage, and you don't want to give up that leverage, right? So they've conditioned Jan Sommer's sale to Inter on first acquiring a replacement, which is what every professional, seriously run club should do. Not Inter, who sell Andre Onana and then turn up and stand there with wondering, oh, did the price go up? Oh, we don't have any leverage in this negotiation, which is exactly what's happened for Trubin. Trubin is, Shakhtar are not gonna budge from their 30 million now, because they don't need to. Sure, his contract expires in a year. Okay, try to gamble on that, get Injan Sommer for a year, and then, I don't know, buy some other, either use Stankovic as a backup together with Di Gennaro and try to survive that for a year and try to snap Trubin up on a free transfer. That's great, but it is what it is. It's still very risky if you do that. But again, it's this notion that they don't, they talk. I mean, there's no. It annoys me that they have a press conference where Inzaghi goes out once again, exactly like last year, starts talking about how the second star of the Scudetto is the objective. They sell Onana. They don't have any starting or second goalkeeper. They got Skriniar left, and the replacement is going to be what, Palomino or Toloi, and you're talking about Scudetti? Are you serious? It's stupid. You know, the Cuadrado thing, I think, actually is going to be good for Inter as a rotation player between him and Dumfries. I think that's fine. I think the midfield has changed. I don't know if it's better or not. It's the same discussion we had about Milan, because Brozovic is much more patient in the build-up. It's clear Inzaghi wants to have a much more vertical and much more direct style of play, much more intense. That's why Fratesi comes in. I think the midfield is fine. The attackers, Lautaro, Thuram, Correa is okay. But is it enough? So you've sold players for 70, you've bought players for 23 with, what's his name? Fratesi. Okay, so you still have money to spend. I get that the structure of the Lukaku deal, I still think 40 million was too much. Inter I'm glad that deal fell apart from a financial perspective, but you need to improve the team. And yes, Bastoni, Acerbi, Darmian worked last year. Maybe it works this year. But that means that next summer, you have a lot of work to do on your defense. A lot of work. And this stopgap nonsense. And bringing in Toloi...
Unless they really believe in Bissek. And they've seen something in
they do. And they do believe in Bissek. And I think they're right to believe in Bissek, because I think he's looked really good since he came in. He's come with the right energy. Obviously, it's early days still. But they believe in him, and that's great. That's a fantastic scouting if that pans out. Well done, But Toloi, it's insulting. And, Bisek cost 7 million euros. Where are you putting this money? Then why are you saying that you're going to reinvest and make the squad stronger and talk about second stars? You're not doing that. You need 5 players. You need a striker. You need a replacement for Skriniar. You need another midfielder. I mean, what is the 2 goalkeepers? And it's July 24th now. It's not a good look. It makes Inter look silly, and it makes you they just look disorganized. And that's kind of, all of that came after Juve destabilized the Lukaku deal, and Inter allowed them to do it. And it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah, no, it's strange what's going on. Certainly with the goalkeepers and the centre backs as well in terms of replacement. Talking about centre backs though, Kim Min-Jae has now officially left Napoli to join Bayern Munich. Very, very sad to see him leave after one season. How will he be remembered though?
Well, we've had quite a few of these Serie A one-season wonders. Roberto Carlos, Hakimi. He, Thierry Henry, but although he wasn't really that good when he wasn't 6 months at Juve. But no, I think he will be remembered in Naples forever. That goes without saying. But I think that he will be one of that season, the level that he consistently played at in the Serie A and also in Europe. I think last season, he was my personal favorite. I think he was the best central defender in the world last year. That's just my personal opinion. I think he was unbelievable. Very complete, and really kind of almost together with Khvicha Kvaratskhelia became the symbol of that mercato. Koulibaly out, Kim Min-Jae in. Lorenzo Insigne, Dries Mertens out, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia in. I mean, those brilliant genius signings that laid the groundwork for that Scudetto run and win he was a pillar of that. And I worry for Napoli because Rudi Garcia has never really known how to organize a defense. And I think, it's difficult to find a replacement. You can't replace Kim Min-Jae. You have to find a defender who follows in the steps of how you want to defend, but and a hope that he pans out well. But Kim Min-Jae was a jackpot signing.
Yeah, to think that he replaced Kalidou Koulibaly, who had been, for me, the best, definitely the most consistent centre back in Serie A over the time period that he was in. He was in Serie A. Of course, there was Chiellini, and there was Bonucci, and there was Skriniar, and all these players. But if you look at consistently over that long period of time,
it was a monster.
It was Koulibaly, and to think that Kim Min-Jae came from Fenerbahce, his first time in a big league, one of the major leagues in Europe, and he came in and instantly became the best player in the league, and like you said, one of, if not the best domestically, I would say, in Europe last season. Was incredible, and he was he was a monster. He was a monster physically. He is a monster physically, but everything about him. I mean, even when you look at his numbers last season, he was top in the charts or in the top 3 or 5 in pretty much every key metric that you measure a defender for. Aerially, interceptions, duels won. I mean, he was tackles, everything. He was absolutely magnificent.
That centre half pairing of De Ligt and Kim Min-Jae, on paper.
I have my question marks over that because I just think they're both a little bit similar to each other. But I think it depends who plays. I mean, what do you drop Upamecano? Who's going to play? Is it going to be a 2?
You drop Upamecano.
Is it going to be a 3?
That's exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do. You drop Upamecano.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that you play those two together, you lack a bit of pace because
I don't think you do, because I think Kim more than makes up for that. Don't you reckon? I mean, he's fast.
Again, it depends who you're playing with. It depends who how well the part. That's my only doubt, is whether how he fits with two similar players in terms of physical build, and he moves better than De Ligt, that's for sure. He doesn't move well at all, but they're kind of similar stature and frames. But as for Napoli, I mean, he's going to be incredibly hard to replace. They haven't replaced him yet, and some of the players that they've been linked to as replacements, they don't fill me with too much confidence. To be honest, I'm seeing like Max Kilman of Wolves, one of the main targets, and the Japanese lad whose name I've forgotten as well. Napoli got a lot of work to do. Napoli haven't done anything in the transfer market yet at all. So they need to get moving as well, Napoli. Right, let's move on to another transfer that is going to be completed in the next hours, or if not days, and that is Mateo Retegui, who has travelled to Italy now. He's in Italy for his medical. He's going to join Genoa in a deal that's worth around 13 to 16 million euros. Of course, nobody had heard of Retegui up until a few months ago, until Roberto Mancini plucked him out of the Argentine league, out of the obscurity, and he was naturalised, Argentina-born, of course, but he has an Italian passport, and he made his Italy debut in March, having never ever. I'm not even sure if he'd ever been to Italy. He'd never played in Italy or played in Europe. And he scored 2 goals in his first 3 appearances with Italy. He scored on his debut against England and then again in the game after against Malta. And he's moving to Genoa. He'll be coached by the ex-Italy striker Alberto Gilardino. What do you think of this transfer, Nima?
I think it's such an intelligent signing by Genoa. And I think that 10, 15, 16 million euros is exactly what he's worth. Genoa are doing some smart things with South American players. They already started with the young Uruguayan central defender Alan Maturo, who was part of the under-20 Uruguay team that won the World Cup for under-20, was also named the defender of the tournament. And this is a player who I think is going to be the next big thing.
Right? Maturo?
No, he's a centre-back. He's a centre-back. He plays, he's a centre-back. And he's very, very good. He's got physical presence, which is what you want from a defender. He's a good ball playing defender as well. And this is, Genoa are building interesting things because they continue to down this path of young South American players who they can buy cheap and then maybe sell on at a profit. And I think Retegui is going to score quite a few goals for them, because again, you have to remember, this guy is not a dribbler. He's not a superstar, like household, technical guy. He's a goal scorer. And in the Serie A, if you have that killer instinct, you can easily, with a team like Genoa, who will not have teams, defending in low blocks against them, he will get his chances. He will have his space. And if he can, and based on what we've seen so far, he's quite the killer in the box. He'll convert. And that means he can score some 15, 20 goals for Genoa. So, no, I think it's a really, really smart
signing. Quite a step up for him, because I think some people will have been a little bit disappointed in the sense that, this is the Italy national team striker. He had a good start for Italy in both of his first two games, and he was linked with a lot of big clubs, including Inter, but also some of the other European teams.
He will never listen. I'm glad Inter didn't go after this guy, because he's not. Look, in these big clubs, you have to be able to play with your back against the goal. You have to be link up. You have to hold up. Your touch has to be better. This guy isn't that guy. He's more of a penalty area finisher. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think you can play for a Milan or Inter or Juve or a Napoli unless you are the elite. Like if you can do what elite strikers do. So I think this is smart by Genoa. I think it's good for him in the sense that it's not a step that's too high up. He will be guaranteed playing in the Serie A, and Mancini will look at him, and I think he'll score lots of goals. I really think so.
Yeah, well, let's hope that he can be the next Diego Milito, who, of course, when he moved to Genoa, he was absolutely magnificent, and then became. Well, you saw what he did at Inter, and he became one of the best strikers in the world. So, we hope that is a similar path for Retegui in terms of, we're thinking from the Italy national team point of view. Staying with South Americans, Arthur Melo has joined Fiorentina on loan for the coming season. Kind of strangely extended his contract with Juventus from 2025 to 2026. And then immediately moved on loan to Fiorentina. Many people will be wondering why he extended his contract.
It's just financial,
this was an accounting trick to spread out the cost of the amortization over a longer period. So Juventus won't be paying anything extra. I think his wages are also getting extended over that period as well. So Juventus won't be losing anything else, and they'll be hoping that Arthur does well at Fiorentina, so that he can then join them permanently. Although I'm not sure that will happen because his salary is so high. But they've got an option, I think, for 20 million euros. But I'm sure Juventus would probably end up accepting less if it came to that. So the question is, can Arthur Melo rebuild his career? Because it's been a total disaster for him since Allegri joined Juventus, but even just in general at Juventus, and even if you look at his last season at Barcelona, he was already things were starting to go wrong. Can this guy become the player who, Xavi himself called him his heir? Can he do that at Fiorentina?
I hope so. I really liked him at Barcelona the first seasons. I thought he was really good, but I felt bad for him since, injury problems and stuff like that. But he's only 26. So, he's got a good few years. And I think Florence is the right kind of stature in terms of size of club for him to go to. I think he'll do really well there. I hope so anyway. I hope he can play regularly. And I think he will, playing for a possession-based system in the Vincenzo Italiano system is going to suit him. But the question is, can he stay fit and can he try to get some continuity in playing time? And it's a big if, because he's had torrid time these last few years. But I mean, it's if you look at the cost, it's barely 2 million euros with another 2 million or something. That's and his wages are mostly being paid by Juve. I mean, this is virtually zero financial commitment by Fiorentina. No? So it's a smart.
He's going to be the replacement for Amrabat, who's going to leave this summer. I mean, they're slightly different players, but yeah. I mean, what I think will definitely help Arthur is that, like you said, possession-based system. They like to control and dominate the ball. Lots of short passes, but also Italiano encourages risk-taking and press, inviting the press and players being able to get out of that. And Arthur Melo, that was probably his greatest strength. Was picking up the ball and then inviting the press and then getting out of trouble and breaking that first line. And it feels like a long time ago now, but he really was elite. He was one of the best in the world at doing that. There were very few that could do it as well as he could back then. But I hope that with a coach, the right coach for him, which is Italiano, then he can do that. If he can't, then it's end of career for him. Because if he can't do it if he can't do it with a coach who's actually, you would think, is suited to his type of football, then you have to just say, you know what, he's a failure, and it's a failed career, really.
Promised much, but delivered so little.
Talking about careers that are ended,
that promised so much and delivered so little.
Well, yeah, maybe that's a little bit unfair on Pogba. He delivered so much at certain points of his career, but he certainly didn't fulfil the very sky high potential that he had. So the Paul Pogba circus goes on. He's going to miss the entire US tour for Juventus. I should say that he is in the United States. He has travelled with Juventus to America. Cynics will say, including me, I'm a cynic, he's only in the United States for marketing reasons and no other reason at all, because he's not going to play. Allegri has actually confirmed that now, that he's not going to play any of Juventus's friendlies there.
So he's Juve's mascot. He's Juve's American mascot then.
Exactly. He's just there to do the photos on Instagram and things like that. So Pogba will be training individually in the gym, on the bike and doing all that kind of stuff. And he's not going to play. The season starts now in 3.5 weeks, just under a month, on the 20th of August, away at Udinese, and he's very unlikely to be certainly isn't going to be fully fit. I mean, I think we can safely say he's not going to start that game. At best, he's going to be on the bench, and we're in another ridiculous situation with Pogba. We saw what happened last season. He missed 53 games last season for Juventus, 6 different injuries. He played only 161 minutes of football. That's less than 2 games worth of football. And he only started 1 match in the entire season. And that match he went off injured after 24 minutes. And then his season was over. He got 1 assist, no goals during that time. 10 appearances in total. The whole plan for Pogba, of course, was to try and prove himself this season, make up for that disastrous season last season. And here we are. And, Allegri's admitted we have no idea when Pogba's going to be back. So this is all happening amidst an offer from Al Hilal that is still on the table.
I don't understand what Juve are doing. If you can offload him to Al Hilal, then you do it. That would be the equivalent of winning the lottery. They would get rid of his wages. Even if they paid them 5 million euros, they'd make a 5 million euro plus Valenza or capital gains, and this one would actually be real. So it's just a win-win for them. They get a giant salary off the books. He's how much more do we need to look at that this guy's body is not going to be he's not going to be able to play again at that level that he did. I mean, he can barely stay fit at any point now the last few years. How many he's got, how many games has he even played? It's obvious, Yeah.
No, and it predates him at Manchester United, as we've said on this pod so much. I mean, look at his injury record for United in the recent seasons before he left, and it's horrendous as well. I mean, I think the issue is not Juventus. I think Juventus clearly would be happy to offload him. Probably they would even happily offload him on a free transfer if it meant not paying his wages. It's Pogba. I think Pogba, he doesn't want to give up on Juventus, and he doesn't want to give up on his top level European career. I think he probably still has an eye on the Euros for France as well next year, and he shouldn't be looking at that at all. He shouldn't even be thinking about that. But I think he's not ready to give up. Some of it might be living in denial. We've seen it with some great players, Cristiano Ronaldo being an example, when great players, it's the end for them and they just can't seem to accept it. Bonucci maybe is another one, also at Juventus. But absolutely think Juventus would jump at it. But I think it's Pogba. I think Pogba doesn't want to move to Saudi Arabia. He wants to still hold on to the hope that he can make it at Juventus. But I mean, it's staring everyone in the face, isn't it?
No, it's obvious. It's sad, but it is what it is. He's not the first player with incredible potential to have a career ruined by injury, and he won't be the last.
I think also it now makes sense also why Juventus are clearly going for Franck Kessié. They see him as a replacement, or as the man to replace Pogba.
And he would be perfect for Allegri in his system. And look, again, also, if it's true that Antonio Conte is coming in a year's time, we know how much he loves Franck Kessié too. So it makes sense. They're once again doing smart things. I mean, I did see a rumor about Spalletti potentially taking over Juve in a year's time. Not entirely sure about that, but it would be fascinating if Spalletti got his chance at Juve.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying with Frenchmen, Kylian Mbappe. Now, if we're talking about outside of Italian football, just football as a whole, it is Kylian Mbappe who has dominated all the football headlines over the last 48 hours, certainly, because PSG have basically exiled Mbappe. They've refused to take him on their summer tour to Japan. They have transfer listed him, and they have made it crystal clear that either Kylian Mbappe signs a new contract or he must leave this summer so that they don't lose him on a free transfer, because his contract runs out in a year's time. And Mbappe wants to see out his contract at PSG. He wants to join Real Madrid on a free transfer in a year's from now. At least that's what I understand. And the reason for that is because he's due to make an absolute fortune on his PSG contract this season, as well as loyalty payment, massive loyalty payment for staying at PSG for another season. Not to mention the huge signing-on fee that he's going to get for joining Real Madrid. So he's been very greedy, Kylian Mbappe. PSG have made it clear though that they're prepared to. I mean, I'm not sure if this will actually end up happening, but they're prepared to keep him on the bench all season if he refuses to leave. And we know what Al Khalifi is like when he makes threats.
But he was. Yeah. It's such a stupid thing, man. They should have sold him to Real Madrid when they had that giant offer. Instead, they decided to keep him, and now it was obvious that he wasn't. I mean, he only committed a 3-year contract, which was like everyone was like, "Huh? That's not a commitment." So he was always going to join Real Madrid.
It was two, actually. It was actually a 2-year contract.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it was hardly a commitment, and so why not? So they should have just sold him. They should have bit the bullet. Then
I do think the World Cup come into it. I think it would have been bad luck losing Kylian Mbappe, Qatar losing Kylian Mbappe before the Qatar World Cup. I do think that definitely played into it. That's fair. That's true. I think that probably could come into it. Plus, Al Khalifi, we know what he's like. He has. I mean, he's been going for court for on charges of not capturing someone, kidnapping someone. Capturing, kidnapping, same thing, isn't it?
I mean, there's being a boomer, and then there's usually like these middle-aged legal terminology.
The pirates captured him. Captain Blackbeard captured him for his ship. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So yeah. I mean, anyway, what does this have to do with Serie A? Well, first of all,
nothing.
Inter are buying Mbappe.
No, this is such nonsense. We didn't report this on Sempre Inter for this specific reason, that I'm not going to publish something that I know is an absolute nonsense lie that is being put out there by PSG only to try to get Real Madrid to make a move for him.
Because Real Madrid are really going to believe it into...
No, but I mean, it's not just Inter. It's Chelsea, it's Tottenham, it's Man United. I mean, it's just nonsense. All of it is nonsense.
Who has more chance of signing Kylian Mbappe, Inter or Tottenham?
I don't think any of them have a chance to sign him. But if either of them did, I think
I liked your tweet where you wrote, "Here is Inter's offer for Kylian Mbappe," and then you posted the
GIF of Michael Corleone in the scene when he speaks to the senator from Nevada, saying, "Here's my offer, nothing," because that's exactly it. Inter don't have that kind of money, and it's not going to happen. So, I mean, the Saudi offer I think is pretty enticing. What was it, 200 million euros?
Depends who you listen to. I mean, there's been one story today that I mean, it's absolute bonkers. That Al Hilal are offering PSG 300 million, and then they will pay Kylian Mbappe 700 million for a 1-year contract, and then they will let Real Madrid buy him on a free transfer in a year's time. It sounds absolute bonkers. It sounds like something that absolutely must be fake news, and surely it's fake news. Surely even the Saudis wouldn't spend $1 billion just to have Mbappe for a year. I mean, who knows? The Saudi league and the money they're spending is absolute madness, and everything around Mbappe is madness. But I mean, if we're talking seriously here, there is a domino effect here because, and it is important for Serie A, because if Mbappe leaves PSG and let's say joins Real Madrid this summer, PSG then sign a replacement. We're thinking probably Dusan Vlahovic. That then unlocks the market for Juventus. It means that they have the money to sign a striker. Maybe it's even Lukaku. Maybe they go back in for Lukaku. They've got the money for Lukaku. Who knows? But they sign a striker. They can't sign a striker until they have. If Juventus sign Lukaku, then Chelsea then buy a replacement for Lukaku. Maybe PSG don't go for Vlahovic. Maybe they put 200 million on the table for Osimhen, and maybe Osimhen leaves. Unlikely, you'd think, but De Laurentiis will sell at a crazy price. So I think the Mbappe transfer there is going to be a domino effect there on Serie A. So that is where I think this transfer is important for Serie A.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So I don't, it's never going to happen in a million years because Italian football, no Italian club has that kind of money to be able to afford even 6 months of his wages. And I think...
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about him joining Real Madrid, though.
Yeah, fine. That's fair. But no, I think it's... I think the Saudi thing, I don't think it could be fake news. I actually think it could happen. It would be the kind of icing on the cake on this summer where Saudi is building their league. And just for a year would make perfect sense.
It's an interesting conundrum for the Qataris, for Al Khalifi, because on a political level... And just on a terms of, talking about pride,
they can't compete.
Qataris selling to Saudi Arabia,
but they can't compete. They can't compete.
Is something that they've always made clear. We're never going to sell to Saudi Arabia. We're never going to sell Mbappe. I mean, it's politically, it's a huge embarrassment. It's a humiliation. For them to sell to them, and you know the culture there better than I do.
Yeah, but it's not just that. But things are changing there as well, and it's been things are not as heightened as they once were.
But the thing is, if the alternative is yes,
it would be a huge loss in terms of like from it would be the symbol of Saudi overtaking Qatar as the power from the Middle East in football. It would be
not
very symbolic.
But that is definitely a huge game changer just in terms of even if you want to take the Premier League, because you're getting Mbappe, you're not getting old players like Karim Benzema, 35 years old, or second level players like Ruben Neves, for example, or even Moussa Diaby's gone to Aston Villa now. But you know what? That level player, we're talking about the very elite players. So that is a game changer.
But it's just for a year, and then he joined Real Madrid on a free transfer, and it's.
Even if it is just for a year, but it will then open the doors. More people will come because Mbappe's there.
Absolutely, and I think that could happen for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Staying on strikers now. So many transfer stories at the moment. So Rasmus Hojlund. Manchester United have already agreed personal terms with Hojlund. We know that Hojlund wants to make the move. He's made that very clear. Now this week it's accepted by everyone that Manchester United are going to make an official bid for Hojlund this week. So the question is, it seems like Atalanta have already found their replacement for Hojlund as well, and that's El Bilal Toure of Almeria, although they face competition from Everton. So it looks like, Atalanta are accepting that Hojlund, there's a good chance he is going to leave for Manchester United. The question is, though, what should the transfer fee be? How much should Atalanta be asking for? Because we've seen different numbers go around for this. We originally, it seemed like United were going to kind of bid around 35, 40 million. But that was deemed way too low, and that Atalanta were looking for more around about 60. But then we've seen recently that actually Atalanta are now actually asking for more, closer towards 70, 80 million. So, we don't know. We'll see later this week when the bid comes in what they're asking for and what United are prepared to pay. But how much do you think that Atalanta, how much do you think he's worth, and how much do you think Atalanta should charge United for?
I think this is so difficult to talk about because we're talking about a player who's really only had one good season. He's still very young, incredible talent. All of that is true. But, usually, based on the transfer window, I'd say Vlahovic for how much he joined Juve for. That's where I'd probably charge for Hojlund.
So you're talking 70 to 80 with add-ons and bonuses.
Yeah, something like that. That's where you get if you go. That's the level you're at if you're trying to usually for these kind of young strikers, that kind of mode. But that's it is a big risk because Vlahovic is yet to fulfill his potential.
That's what I mean. The Vlahovic is almost like a warning because Vlahovic had achieved more and had been playing for much longer than Hojlund at this level. Vlahovic had a whole year where he was second or third top scorer in all of Europe when he went for 80 million to Juventus. Whereas Hojlund, you say he had one season, he's really only had half a season because if you look at his numbers, virtually all his goals, nearly all of his goals, even though you could clearly see there was some big talent there in the first half of the season, all of his actual tangible achievements came in 2023. He's been on fire in 2023. He scored 15 goals in 2023 for Atalanta and for Denmark, and you can see. Just looking at him physically, he's already a man. He already bullies defenders physically, and he's so quick. We saw that burst of pace that he did against Lazio that time, and that was probably his best performance. And he has that incredible left foot, just like the player that he is compared to, which is Erling Haaland. He's compared to him. Under 11 seconds, he does the 100 meters in. So you can see that he won't have a problem physically with the Premier League, with the intensity and stuff. But it is a short period of time, and there's always a risk also with youngsters as well. Are they ready? Is he going to be ready? Is he going to be, if he's going to be Man United's number 9 straight away? So
the difference is this, and that is that Erik ten Hag has worked with young players, is good with young players. We know that he can get players to take the next step. He improves players regardless of how old they are. We've seen that with him, right? So I think that's one thing that I think is that is comforting if you're Manchester United. For Atalanta, they know how to skin and fleece Premier League clubs. And they know how to skin and fleece anyone who wants to buy their players, period. But I'm starting to wonder if the jig is up soon because, between Kulusevski and the other Swede, whose name eludes me now, when he went to United, what's his name?
Elanga, Anthony Elanga.
Yeah.
He's been sold. He's on the brink of being sold.
Well, exactly. He's not been very, very good, has he?
I never rated him, to be honest with you. I never got the fuss of him. He's a classic example of youth merchant that just because he's young everybody suddenly rates them. But yeah, I mean, we know Atalanta, how well they've done. I mean, if they do sell him for this big money, again, it just shows what an incredible job Atalanta do in scouting these players. And if they get El Bilal Toure, I mean, who knows? He might be the next one. I mean, they're just so good at discovering these players.
Sorry, I meant Amad Diallo, who played for Atalanta and barely played, and then went to Manchester United, not the Swedish Elanga. But Amad Diallo was sold to United for 40 million.
Yeah, and he'd only played about 270 minutes of senior
This is
football.
what I mean. Like, they know how to fleece clubs for talent.
But it's also, and I was discussing this the other day separately, is that, Atalanta, Gasperini is a system-based coach.
Yes,
and there is always the risk with system-based coaches that players only play well in their system, and they don't. I mean, I don't think it'll be the case for Hojlund. We've seen how well he's done for Denmark, and he's been on fire for Denmark as well. He doesn't come across as a system-based player at all. But there have been so many Atalanta players who they've gone to other clubs and they haven't performed. They haven't fulfilled their potential. Once they've left Atalanta, you can go through so many. Gagliardini, Robin Gosens. Amad Diallo is another one, isn't he? Frank Kessié, even for a while, and even Kessié probably hasn't reached the sky high. I mean, he hasn't done it at Barcelona. Okay, did well with Milan and winning the Scudetto with them, but even
Cristante, Mancini. I mean, Mancini's only now. Gianluca Mancini's only now coming into it. Gagliardini,
Romero, I get as well. I mean, he's been decent at Tottenham, and he obviously did very well for Argentina. But even he hasn't fulfilled as well. Yeah. So I mean, there's that as well. I do think he's an incredible talent, though, and the fact that let's not undersell him again. But Atalanta won't know. Atalanta,
no, they don't.
They know how. They
know how to sell players, and they know how to charge for their players, and they don't.
And they
care.
don't need to sell as well. They're profitable.
Yeah, they are. They run really, really well. I mean, I think you said it best when you described them pound for pound the best run club in the world, and I think that's a very, very good way to describe it.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Where are we at? Right. We're not going to get through everything we've done. We've gone through.
I do think we should talk a little bit about Scamacca before we move on. But I mean, because it's a very interesting discussion. Like, where does he go? Does he stay at West Ham? Does he stay with Roma, Inter? Does he go to Roma, Inter, or Juve? Which club is best? I mean, it's an interesting discussion.
Well, the doors are open potentially for Roma, who of course are the favourites for him. And as was explained by Andrea Di Carlo on our Roma transfer deep dive, which came out last Wednesday, and I would invite everybody to take a listen to that. We go through, Nima and Andrea go through the Roma's transfer market, the players that are potentially coming in, those who are going out. Paulo Dybala, will he go to Chelsea? Which striker will Roma buy? Which midfielder will they buy? Some fantastic stuff on Jose Mourinho and what actually happened in the parking lot with the referee Anthony Taylor. He was there. Andrea Di Carlo was there and witnessed all of it. He told us the whole backstory of that. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic pod. Andrea Di Carlo, check it out. It's for our patrons only. And some amazing. He's brilliant, by the way, Nima. Absolutely brilliant. Just fantastic.
These Roma journalists are funny, man. They're good. They're good people, and they know their shit. I mean, all of these the club specific journalists that we bring on, they really know their crap. They really know their shit. They really do.
They really know their stuff, and it's something that's being lost in journalism at the moment because I'm seeing it that the corporate media and the mainstream media. Partly understandably, because they're under so much financial pressure and because the legacy media is dying and the advertisement revenue is dying and they just don't have the money. What they're doing is they're getting rid of club correspondents, club-specific correspondents who are really great experts. There's so many of them that are really fantastic experts and know their clubs inside out, got great insight, great contact, great sources, great information. They're brilliant at what they do. They're getting rid of them and they're hiring, instead of hiring, for example, if you take an Italian if you take an Italian media, for example, instead of hiring a Juventus, Milan, Inter, Roma, and Lazio correspondent, 5 of them, you have to pay for 5. They'll hire an aggregator basically, who will cover all 5 of them, and you get basically paying for one person to cover all five rather than paying for five separate ones. And I think that's sad. But anyway, going on a tangent, Scamacca, the doors are open for Roma, for Inter, for Juve. Which club do you think is best suited for him to rebuild his career?
That's a really interesting question because it depends. I think if you're looking for just one, from a perspective of where is he most likely to succeed because the environment is so protective and knows how to handle it and has done it a million times before, it's Juve. He will be completely protected. He'll be able to focus on his football. There won't be any problems unless he creates them. He'll be surrounded. It's an Italian young Juve now. That's the new project. I think Giuntoli will knows how to build relationships. So I think that would be for him from that perspective.
Does he need to be happy though? Because people have spoken about Juventus and it being obviously talking about corporations, very corporate, very, ruthless, cold. Some of these might be stereotypes, but I think they are partly true compared to other clubs. Almost like the military, almost like an army camp.
A soldatino.
Yeah,
the famous
soldiers.
Quote by Cassano that I'm not a soldier.
Exactly, without ever wanting to agree with Cassano on anything. But it's true, and Scamacca does come across as the kind of person that I'm not sure whether he would like that kind of being ordered around and you have to do this and you have to eat shit and do everything at this time. And, I don't know.
Maybe that's exactly what he needs, because I think, being from Rome and Rome being the crazy, beautiful, insane city and Piazza Roma, that they are absolutely batshit. I think maybe a bit of calm would be good for him. You know what I mean? I think Juve know how to take players that come from, troubled backgrounds and just need a bit of, because I think he strikes me as someone who wants peace and quiet. I don't think he wants chaos around him. I think he would appreciate a bit of
But I do
calm.
think there's a sensitivity about him that maybe
there is. There is.
I don't know.
That's
that would be my question mark over Juve. But I guess he's had a year's experience with the Scottish Allegri, so he's prepared him for the Italian Allegri.
Oh my god!
What about Inter?
I would love him at Inter. He's been my first choice to bring in because I think if he came to Inter, he would also same thing there. He would be given time because Thuram would be the starter at first, and he'd be eased in. But so I would welcome him with open arms. I think what I think of this guy. I think he's
the issue I have with Inter. The issue I have with Inter is this: I would like him, just talking from a purely Italy national team point of view, but also thinking about him, so that where he is the undisputed first choice striker.
Well, he would be that at Roma, and he would be that at Juve. He wouldn't be that this season.
Exactly. That's. I think that's the question mark with Inter. Will it be him? Will it be Thuram? We know Lautaro is going to start, and we know that for sure. But then again, at Inter, he'd be playing in a front two, and will that suit him in a front two rather than?
I think so. With Lautaro, I think he would. This guy,
Lautaro could almost be like the Raspadori
that. Exactly that. And I think that would be the ideal. That would be the perfect solution for all of them. I rate this guy a lot. For me, he is the future of Italian.
And then you've got Roma.
Team. You've got Roma. Roma, he would start. He would absolutely start. It's his club. He loves the club. But he would come into that dressing room, and I think he would fit in quite well. But again, it's the life around, everything surrounding it, where can it get too intense for him? Because Roma, as I said, Rome is a crazy city, and Roma is a crazy piazza.
He can feed off Dybala, Pellegrini, really talented, skillful, creative players. But the thing is, if they can get it working, that is.
Yeah, and Mourinho, I'm not sure he's Mourinho's number one choice. I think
no, he's not. It's Morata. It's Alvaro Morata.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
the other thing
as Andrea told us, Roma dream of both of them. That would be the ideal.
Well, who knows? If we can get one of them on loan, maybe that is possible. But I do. The other thing I would say, the final thing I would say about Scamacca is I do feel like he's the kind of player that will play better in a team that plays expressive football. Now, West Ham are not that. Juventus are not that. But even Roma are not that under Mourinho. We know that they're more of a kind of a counter-attack. And even though Mourinho has kind of changed his style a little bit, the numbers don't lie. You see the number of goals that Roma score. I know that was partly down, certainly the start of last season, down to terrible finishing, and the XG was so much higher than the actual goals scored. But there's no doubt out of these three teams that the team that create the most chances and the team that play the most attacking football and throw the most men forward is Inter. So I think in that sense, I think Inter is the best team for him because he's going to be playing the team that will allow him to express himself, that will have more players attacking, more players around him.
And he's got Fratesi there as well, who was like his best friend since they were children. So I think tactically and that aspect, I think, yes, Simone Inzaghi's football suits him the best. But if we're talking just off the pitch, I think Juve would be a safe...
I think there's pros and cons for all of them. I think there's
and of course the romantic choice would be Roma, which would be beautiful because again you'd have another Roma team, a dressing room filled with Romanisti from the city, which is a very it's a very typical Roma Lazio thing. They always want that, don't they? So it's interesting. It's interesting. I just hope he doesn't stay at West Ham. That's all I want. Just leave West Ham.
Yeah. Well, David Moyes signing Divock Origi to replace Scamacca would be the most David Moyes thing ever. So we will see if that happens. Right, let's finish off with Baggio and Prem Face of the Week. Right, Baggio. I've got a couple. So I'll go through them. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to Italy women. They started off the Women's World Cup today with a 1-0 win against Argentina. A goal from Cristiana Girelli, late goal. She's had a fantastic career, and she's 33 now. She came on as a sub and scored in the 87th minute for Italy to win. So that's a great result for Italy. They've got Sweden and South Africa in their group as well. Sweden are good, aren't they? Sweden have got a really strong team. So that's a really important result for Italy. They're probably going to play United States in the last 16, so they're not going to get any further than the last 16. But this isn't a great Italy team this year, so just getting out of the groups would be something, I think. So well done to them, and good start for them.
But I have to say, Sweden not very good either, and I think Italy could have a chance against Sweden.
They're quite. I was looking at the betting odds to win the World Cup, and Sweden were quite high up on it.
Yeah, but it's not one of the better Swedish teams. It's a very fairly anonymous Swedish team. They're a good unit, but they don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying Italy could surprise because Sweden would be dreadful.
Well, Italy need to somehow not play United States in the last 16, so they need to try and finish first in the group above Sweden. Sweden won their first game against
South Africa at the death.
South Africa 1-0. So
no, 2-1 at the death. They were 1-0.
Was it 2-1? Yeah,
they scored at the death.
Yeah. So well done on them. The other Baggio of the week. I mean, I don't know if Baggio is the right word for this, but just wanted to say condolences, rest in peace to Trevor Francis, who sadly I've just seen just while we're recording.
Just died.
Has just died at the age of 69, which is really, really sad news.
Another one of the 80s superstars in Italy.
Another of Roberto Mancini's friends and teammates. I mean, it's
Sampdoria,
in Sampdoria. I mean, it's just brutal year for Mancini, and it's very, very sad. He was a fantastic player. What a player!
I loved him.
He played in Italy for Sampdoria and Atalanta. He was brilliant at Sampdoria. He was absolutely brilliant. He was there for 4 years, but unfortunately, he was injured. He was so injury prone. He's one of the most injury prone players there has been, and he missed probably half of his games at Sampdoria during his 4 years there. But when he did play, he was absolutely brilliant. Some of the goals he scored, I mean, he was the complete striker. He was a very modern striker. He had everything. He was a great dribbler. He was lightning quick. He was both-footed. He was technical. He interchanged really, really well. I mean, Mancini and Vialli always spoke really highly of him and what he taught them. And you know that Sampdoria attack line in that time period. I mean, those three all together I mean, absolutely fantastic lineup, and he was pivotal in Sampdoria winning their very first ever trophy, which was the Coppa Italia of 1985. That's the first trophy that Sampdoria ever won in their history. And Trevor Francis was the top scorer of Sampdoria that season. He was the top scorer in the Coppa Italia that season. And that
just
Sampdoria
to put it into perspective for people as well, he was Britain's first £1 million player. He won the European Cup and Champions League with Nottingham Forest twice, 2 years in a row, 78, 79, 79, 80. We're talking about he was a Birmingham City legend, isn't he? So we are talking about a top player.
No, he was in terms of like pure ability, you could almost call him world class. But because of his injuries, maybe never was able to get that take. But I mean, he scored the winner in a European Cup final for Nottingham Forest when they beat 1979, when they beat Malmo actually in the final, and when for the famous Brian Clough when he took them up from the second division, won promotion from the second division to the first division. Then won the first division in his first season in the first division, and then won the European Cup the season after. Just shows how beautiful football was. But that Sampdoria team that won the Coppa Italia was a fantastic team. Francis, Mancini, Vialli, Graham Souness, who actually scored in the final against Milan. They beat Milan in the final. Pietro Viecowood was in defence. Beccolossi was in that team, Inter legend. So they were. They were. That was a great team. So I was shocked actually because I had no idea that. I don't know how he died, how he passed, but I had no idea that he was ill or anything. And very, very sad. Very, very kind, gentle guy as well. Very sad. Okay, Prem face of the week, Nima. Do you have anything?
No, not anything that stands out, but I'm pretty sure you do.
Yes, I do. I put something in here. I don't know whether I've got something I've forgotten about, but I know which one I definitely have, and that is Richard Keys.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was referring to you.
Yes.
I mean, it's like it literally. Of course, he was going to say that about Andre Onana, wasn't he?
Yeah, he said Andre Onana was unproven because he'd never played in the Premier League, which is, again, your classic, if there's one thing that a Prem face is always going to say about a foreign player joining the Premier League or foreign player that hasn't played in the Premier League is they're unproven because they've not played in the Premier League. So, yeah. So Onana is unproven.
Him saying, but it was also about him, I wonder if, how's his shot stopping ability and blah, 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 and all that. And
he said that United are going to regret getting rid of De Gea, and De Gea's proven because he's played in the Premier League, and Onana is unproven. I mean, yeah.
It's just, and the fact that it's Richard Keys as well, it's like, of course it is Richard. Of course it's him. That he would say that, because his Twitter is so funny. I follow him. No, I don't follow him, but I do go and check what he's written every now and again.
Oh, you've got to, isn't it? And we've got a weekly segment. I mean,
it's not just that.
Away your best material.
No. It's the reason why I do it is because I think he's so funny, in the sense that I always go and check what he's angry about now, because it's very, very entertaining, and it's it just felt like when I saw that I was like, of course it's Richard Keys, of course he said that about Onana. It's like you could bet your mortgage that he would say that.
Yeah. Death, taxes, and Richard Keys being a Prem face.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Let's leave it at that.
I've got a horrible feeling this guy will cost you. This guy, not even his name. This guy.
That guy.
Yeah. That and this. This guy will cost United as many points in a season as De Gea used to save. This is a big call by Ten Hag.
I didn't see that. I didn't see those quotes, actually. I just saw the bit where he said he's unproven. Yeah. Okay.
So funny.
Right. Well, let's leave it at that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be back on Tuesday for the Q&A, and then either on Wednesday or Thursday for a Lazio deep dive on the Mercato with... Who's it with, Nima?
It's I'm waiting on confirming it's Marco Barbaliscia, his name is. I'm waiting to confirm with him what date it is, but he works on a local TV station in Rome, and he's a Lazio. He's covered Lazio for like a long time. So yeah, that's who we can talk to.
Check that out. These Roman journalists are insanely good. It's insane how good they are, how much they know. Right, okay. Thanks everyone for listening. See you on Tuesday for the Q&A. Until then, ciao, ciao.